Moving around the SEC, obviously, it's a super talented league. The most interesting team to me, I just can't really figure them out, is Florida. Right? Florida is 17 and 15. They just got beat 19-3 yesterday against Florida State, which we're actually going to ask you about Florida State because they seem like they're kind of a real deal. But Florida's 17 and 15. They're ranked in the top 25. They have all this talent, maybe the best player in college baseball. What is going on over there?
Yeah, Florida is, the rankings with Florida, it's like you've got series wins at Miami, LSU, Mississippi State, A&M. Those are 4 loud weekends. Now, the way some of those teams have played, those weekends have lost some of their luster, but they've been miserable. They've lost like 6 of 7 Tuesday games now, and Florida State has run them off the field basically 3 times on weekdays. And so I watched Missouri is rebuilding, right? Like their offense is young and not ready for the SEC. And Jack Caglione didn't get out of the second inning. Yeah. So I purposely went back and watched that replay because I was like, how did Mizzou, who's dead last in the SEC in offense, how did they have 7 hits out of 14 hitters against Cags? And when you look at it, what's revealed is that Florida's defense, I didn't realize it was where it is. They are average at best at every position, and at several positions they're below average. The 7 hits Cags gave up, it was 2 flares, an infield single that should have been an out, 2 pop-ups that should have been caught, and then 2 legit line drives. And when Cags pitches, he's a really good first baseman, so they lose that. So Florida's big issues are they have too many freshmen pitching. They're talented, but they're freshmen. Their offense is just wild swinging. They're last in the SEC in walks, I believe. So it's either they run into a home run or they don't score, and they don't even pressure the other team. And then their defense is really struggling. And so, even though they're very talented and they're capable of being explosive offensively, I think those are some real vulnerabilities. It's shocking to see what Florida's capable of. And then what they're capable on the good side, what they're capable on the not so good side.
So you mentioned in Florida, like they've had some, like you said, some very loud weekends. If they were to go on a run and go on a stretch, you will still kind of point at the weekends that they've had already because of who they've beaten and how they've beaten them. There's 2 other teams I kind of want to talk about. One, obviously, I think is the elephant in the room is how in the hell is Kentucky doing what they're doing right now? But secondly, I feel like this other team we talked about as much as a Florida or an LSU or somebody like that to start the year. And somehow, even with the big-time transfer they got into the school, they've kind of going under the radar, and they're still a top 3 team in A&M.
Yeah, so I would say let me do Kentucky first. So Kentucky's really interesting. Mark Etheridge, who we work with at D1 Baseball, he said something really interesting. Like the headline on Kentucky is Nick Mingione made a drastic style change a couple years ago where he basically said, look, the SEC is about power arms and power hitters, and we're just not winning that war. So he went dead opposite. What they've done is they've gone West Coast, hey, we're going to suffocate you with defense and pitching, and we're going to be opportunistic and play team offense. But the difference is Minge is not doing it with Big West athletes, no offense. He's doing it with the athletes that the SEC attracts. And when he started down this road, it was, I think we were all a little suspicious. And then last year, it's like, okay, they host a regional, they win a regional. And then this year, you're like, I don't know, can you do it? There was a lot of close calls last year, a lot of close shaves. Can you do it again? And Mark Etheridge said this. He said, Kentucky's not beating teams. They're like beating them into submission. Like teams are quitting against Tennessee or against Kentucky. Like I can't even say it right. Like I just want to say Tennessee. Kentucky's doing this, right? Like I keep having these subliminal slips. And so, hey, they Emilian Petre, their second baseman's a great player. Their shortstop, Grant Smith, has 3 errors in 85 starts. Wow. He has 85 starts and 3 errors. Like it's hilarious. When you hit a ground ball to short, their whole dugout screams, wrong guy. Like you hit the ball to the wrong guy because it's an out. They've moved Travis Smith to the bullpen. I watched him against Alabama. It's 96 with a vicious slider. Like he was probably miscast as starter. He's a nightmare at the end of the game. So I mean, truth be told, like we know Kentucky has not played the best part of their schedule yet, but they've played 12 SEC games. It's not like they've not been playing whatever games.
Right.
I mean, there's still SEC games.
They put themselves at 11-1. They put themselves in a pretty good spot going into the hardest part of their schedule.
Amen. Yeah. I mean, it's basically idiot proof at this point, right? Like
no doubt.
You 11-1, you almost can't mess it up, right?
No doubt. And Jay mentioned A&M, right? They brought in Braden Montgomery, right? This is the last team I want to touch on. I know we keeping you a little longer than I told you we would, but it's okay.
All good.
They brought in Braden Montgomery from Stanford, right? He visits LSU, ends up not coming to LSU. You think he's going to go back to Stanford. They end up getting him. I was interested to see how he was going to make the adjustment when he got to the SEC, and he's been balling. Their whole team has been balling. What do you see from A&M, and what makes them so good?
Yeah, I think A&M is, Jim Schlossnagle is, I'm going to say there's a better way to say this, but he feels like an underrated head coach to me, right? Like, and maybe it's because he has not won his national title yet, but Jim Schlossnagle's taken 6 different teams to Omaha, and he's just he's wired like Jay, like he's just a very savvy college baseball CEO. And if you look, the kind of book cover for A&M is those first 3 hitters are as scary as it gets in college baseball. Gavin Grahovic, the freshman, I mean, he's their leadoff hitter. He's like 6'2", 210, and just rakes. And their 2-hole hitter is Jace Laviolette, who's a 6'6" center fielder. Like he's a star player. And then Braden Montgomery is having a massive year. If it wasn't for Charlie Condon and Travis Bazzana, the name we'd be talking about is Braden Montgomery. I mean, he is just an animal of an offensive player, and it's an 80 arm in right field. Like he is so gifted. The question mark, and then they've got a couple Ivy League transfers sprinkled in there. Hayden Schott, Jackson Appel, their catcher, and those kids are 5th-year seniors that have played a lot of baseball that are really, really good players. So they just have a good mix there. I think the question with A&M is their pitching good enough? And Ryan Prager is not a traditional ace in that he doesn't throw 96 or anything like that, but he has missed a lot of bats. And I don't know, like A&M is a really good team. It's clearly an Omaha roster. I'm not ready to say that they're like in Arkansas's tier yet. And they certainly have not played as well as Kentucky's played. But A&M, those top 3 hitters alone would be enough to keep you up at night getting ready for that series.
No doubt. It's a gauntlet. The SEC is a gauntlet. I mean, we saw Missouri sweep Florida. You just never know what you're going to get. So, like I said, it's almost at the halfway mark. You have 18 games left. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have you back on. LSU's in a whole different situation, and I'm sure the SEC will be even more of a mess than it is now. But like always, we appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate your insight, and we will have you on again here in the next few weeks once everything starts to really kind of get locked in. So appreciate you.
Jay Mitch, go get him, man. Knock him dead.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
See
y'all.